Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Today it has to do with Brayer cleanup papers. Now, these are the papers that I get when I'm rolling off the paint from my Brayer, when I'm cleaning it up, when I'm printing. And these papers, sometimes they're so-so, like this one. But here's the thing, just one more layer and they don't have to look so-so. One simple layer can really change them, and let me show you how. I've got a cleanup paper here, and I'm going to position the mask on it where I want it to go. I'm going to kind of hold them together with my hand, and then I'm going to flip it over onto the plate. That way the mask gets in about the spot where I want it, and then I'm ready to bring in the paint. Some of my Brayer papers, like the one over here, also have little ghost prints on them in places. I'll use those as cleanup papers for getting little remnants of paint off of the plate as well. All right, so I've got that mask down really well. That gel press plate grabs it, holds it in place, so it is not gonna move. I've got some black paint here. This happens to be a heavy body Liquitex paint, a nice thick paint. That's gonna hold the detail here. I'm not being shy with the paint here, and actually I have a little bit of a lead foot sometimes when it comes to paint. I tend to go with too much paint rather than not enough. Now, if that ever happens to you, like what it just did to me here, you simply roll some of it off on a Brayer cleanup paper. Yep, more of those papers being made so future prints can go on top of those. So once you've got a nice even layer, you can lift up the plate so it makes it easy to grab the mask. See all that detail that's in there? That is going to transfer over into the print. Once I've got my Brayer paper on there, I am making sure that I've got good contact everywhere so that the paper is touching that paint, because this might surprise you, but if the paper doesn't touch the paint, it's not going to have color there. So that's why I'm putting my hand around this and making sure I've got good contact. And who knows why I was so concerned about the very edges of this paper, but clearly I was. But once I felt comfortable that that paper had made contact with the paint, then I lifted it up. So why use the gel press plate to do this instead of just putting the mask on there and a cosmetic sponge to put the black paint on? Well, there are 3 reasons. One of them is right there on that plate right now. It is the ghost print. Sometimes the neatest ghost prints show up when I'm doing this. The paper that I'm using here that's going to get this wonderful ghost print in just a moment, there is absolutely nothing special about this paper. Sorry to the manufacturer. I think it's a great paper. I love using it. But it is just a 90-pound cardstock. Well, let's get to reason number 2 why I love doing this technique more with a gel press plate than just painting it on with a cosmetic sponge. So I've got the mask on here. I'm going to position it about where I want it to be on the paper, and then I'm going to give it a flip and stick it down. Then it's bring that paint in again and repeat this process. One of the things I absolutely adore about this is how fast it is. It's a lot faster for me to apply paint to that entire page here using this method than if I was to take the time to use the cosmetic sponge. I'm a pretty impatient person, so if something can get the job done quickly, then that's going to make me happy as a clam. Now, I've never lived by the ocean. Those of you that are around clams, are clams happy? Where on earth did this saying come from? That might be something I'm going to Google after I finish this video. I'm calling these things masks, but aren't they stencils? I mean, they come from Stencil Girl products after all. Well, whether you call them a stencil, whether you call them a mask, it's still the same thing. It's still going to do the same thing here on the plate. If you do a bunch of prints this way, if you're using a lot of paint, the paint can build up on the mask or the stencil that you're using. And so if you want to keep that from happening, just once you're done using the mask, toss it in a little container of water, let it soak for a little while, and then rinse it off. With this print, there wasn't paint left on the plate, so I've got no ghost print that I can pull on that one this time. On this cleanup paper, I've got some layers on here. I'd done a little ghost printing. There was a little itty bitty Brayer cleanup on there, so just a random assortment. Again, one of the nice things about masks is you can test out, audition where you want them to be. I realized I didn't want this thing going all the way off the page. I just wanted the top of the ladder there. I had an attack of the fumble fingers as I was flipping it over, so I'm just straightening up the ladder here and giving it a nice push down. because that plate is going to grab that mask, it's going to grab that stencil and hold it in place. In this video, I'm only using black to do this. I chose black because it really makes those lighter colors stand out and pop. The pattern, the shape of whatever mask I'm using really stands out. But does that mean this is the only color that will do it? It's the only one that you can use? Absolutely not. This is art. This is being creative. There is never one single answer to any question. So you can use whatever color you like. You can use whatever kind of paint you like. I'm not sure what happened to me in a past life that made me so concerned about the edges today, but for whatever reason, I am making sure that I've got great contact on those to make sure that I've got paint that transfers completely over to them. What you're seeing me do here, by the way, I happen to be using the 8x10 plate, but you bet this technique works with any size gel press plate. Whether you're working on the big 12x14 one or you're working on a 6x6 one. Whatever size you've got, you can do this technique on it. Up until now, I've been putting the mask or the stencil on the plate and then the paint, but I want to show you on this one that you can do it the other way around too. You can cover the plate with paint and then put your mask on top of it. It's going to get the same job done. Now, I don't want to hold you in suspense anymore. I know you are on the edge of your seat as to what is that third reason why I love using a gel press plate to do this instead of just using a cosmetic sponge to apply the paint. And that has to do with what the final print looks like. Because there's a little bit of random grunginess, a little bit of things showing through because the gel plate has been used. You can see on the butterfly and the ladder, some of that stuff peeking through where the black wasn't quite as thick in one area. That little bit, that little extra touch of it just adds those wonderful details to a print that I can't do if I'm using something like a cosmetic sponge or just a paintbrush. Because the mask is still there on the plate, I want to make sure the paper gets all the way around it and touches the paint at the edges. That's why you'll see me using my thumb or the tips of my fingers just to make sure that paper's touching all the way around it. Because anywhere the paper doesn't touch the paint's not going to come up. And on this print, notice the areas where the black isn't completely perfect. I absolutely love that when that happens because that makes the print so much more interesting than if everything was just a solid, complete black around it. One of the perks of putting the paint down first and then putting the mask on top of it is the ghost that you can get, because that's going to leave the paint that was under the mask on the plate when you took that first print. So that means your ghost print can look something like this. Well, thanks for joining me for today's play. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you'd like more ideas, more ways to use your gel press plate, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as there's a new video out. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.